You're listening to Talk of Champions, an Ole Miss Spirit podcast with Ben Garrett.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Hello again, friends, and welcome inside, at least for me, the RiverLand Roofing Studios. A little house up top. RiverLand Roofing for all your roofing needs. 662-644-4297. RiverlandRoofing.com. Few, if any, are doing more for Ole Miss athletics, not just football, athletics in the name, image, and likeness space, NIL, than RiverLand Roofing. So support them, riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297. And come hang out with me, Ben Garrett, at Spirit Ben on X, and Zach Berry, at Zach_Berry, and talk about your Rebels all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. And if you sign up today, you can get your first week for $1. Just $1. We'd love to have you. We'd love to engage in your Ole Miss question and conversation starting if you just sign up with us. $1 for your first week. Zachary, how are you on this Thursday, January 23rd, 2025? Ole Miss basketball suffered its second consecutive SEC loss since its first ever top 5 program road win at Alabama. They have lost 4 games in total. 3 of those losses have come by a combined 6 points. So being an Ole Miss fan for football and basketball has not been for the faint of heart. How are you?
I'm good. It feels like we've had like 3 Thursdays this week.
Yeah.
Feels like a long week. Last night wasn't great. I was talking to the legal gambling council throughout the game, and I said that Ole Miss basketball at times can be like Iowa football. Which Kirk Ferentz has won a lot of games, but just rebounding last night. Second consecutive game getting beat on the boards. The lack of free throws was weird. I'm not blaming the officials, but I do think Ole Miss got very, very timid late. I think it was by design. I think Beard was trying to, almost like when you're playing, NCAA football, you put shoe clock on. I think he was trying to just get to the locker room. And that's just my opinion.
I don't think so. I think a lot of it had to do with the short press of Texas A&M or the soft press, I should say, of Texas A&M, and how it kind of discombobulated Ole Miss, especially on inbounds. And with a veteran team, you don't usually see that. And Ole Miss, for the last 3 minutes and 49 seconds, didn't hit a shot. And that is not their offense to take shots so late in the shot clock. And Chris Beard actually said afterwards how, we did a lot of things that we typically don't do. And you don't see Ole Miss, even with offense sometimes being a little bit of a struggle, you don't see them go 349 and turn the ball over a bunch. They were among the nation's best teams in protecting the basketball, defending, and for a 3 minute and 49 second stretch against Texas A&M, it all fell apart and resulted in their second loss. They led by 8 with 4 minutes left. So they were in complete position to win. It's a tough one to lose, considering how strong the SEC is. Next is a road trip to ranked Missouri. It doesn't get any easier. But again, if you're looking for a reason for optimism, number one, Ole Miss, again, has been in every single game essentially it's played. Louisville continues to win, hasn't lost since December after Ole Miss went to Louisville and beat them by 20. They're now ranked, and that's going to be one of the best wins for Ole Miss. Has 5 quad 1 wins, does Ole Miss. Only had 3 last year. Defense travels. They were going to suffer a loss like this. It's just unfortunate because of how strong the SEC is, and they had a 61% chance, I think, going into that game, according to Ken Palm, to win, and had it all right there, and had their worst stretch of basketball, I think, collectively, at least of the SEC season. Probably not of the year, but one of the toughest stretches of the year. And a lot of that had to do with the soft press, but also Ole Miss uncharacteristically with a veteran team like Sean Padilla's turnover on an inbound underneath his own goal. You just haven't seen that all year.
It was like, and look, I'm not a coach. I don't pretend to be some savant with basketball, but it seemed like there were a lot of like 101 things that Ole Miss was doing last night, like dribbling to the side or to a corner and picking up their dribble and then just immediately getting trapped. Yeah, they felt weird when A&M pressed under 2 minutes. It was like Ole Miss had never seen a press before. They panicked. They would go to a side. You got to get to the middle. And it was just a weird final 5 minutes. That's interesting that Beard said that they weren't doing that by design with the shot clock. Because I thought
some of
A&M,
it was. I think some of it was. I don't want to speak. I don't want to take his
yeah,
words and twist them.
I
But
was gonna say I think it
no.
was because I think they were just trying to bleed the clock and use get the most out of a possession, get a good shot. But A&M's good defensively, but I don't think it was like A&M was just smothering Ole Miss to where they could not get a shot up. There were some possessions that were like that, but it seemed like Ole Miss was just kind of dribbling around, waiting till about 8 seconds, and then they started to try to get a shot or run some kind of set. Weirdly enough, Ben, a win. I was talking to our buddy Nick Carr, who is the analytics guy for us. He per the metrics, a win Saturday at Missouri will actually be better for Ole Miss than a win at home against A&M. So this isn't like football. It's a
No.
longer season. There are more games, so it's not the end of the world. Obviously, it's not going to be some glaring black eye on the resume because A&M is a ranked team and they're good, and it just hurts if you're an Ole Miss fan because you led the entire game. And I think if I told you, Ben, that you were going to get 50 combined points from Sean Padula, Jalen Murray, Jamin Brakefield, and Malik Dia, you'd have been like, oh, yeah, it's a home win, comfortable win by 10, 11 points. But yeah, credit to A&M, hung around, and made some shots. Very uncharacteristic last couple defensive possessions for a Chris Beard team. They missed the free throw at the end. No one stops the ball.
No one.
They get it up the floor. Guy gets a good look. I thought that the 10-second violation. I don't know why Chris Beard didn't call a timeout, just to try to regroup and settle everyone down because it got really frantic there for about a minute and a half, where you could sense the urgency and kind of Ole Miss was kind of like hyperventilating, like, all right, let's just get to triple zeros.
They were reeling. They were reeling a little bit. They were on tilt.
Yeah, and again, shout out to our guy Nick. He was sending me some numbers earlier about what Ole Miss is really good at, and it's an elite shot blocking and defending team. And by shot blocks, we're not looking at the per game numbers. We're looking at the rate because Ole Miss, has fewer possessions than most because of the clock and how good they are. So they limit the possession. So they're 12th in the country in rate. Like averaging a block nearly 1 in every 6 possessions is pretty wild. Ole Miss only drops to 18 in the net. So it's not, the sky isn't falling.
Which prior they were 13th. How high did they climb? 13 in the net.
13,
they climbed to 13.
Yeah.
After the loss to Mississippi State, actually moved up 5 spots.
Yeah.
In that game in overtime, Matthew Morrell's driving with Ole Miss up 77-76, dunks that ball like Matt usually does. They probably win that game. This game, similar thing. But I'm glad you brought up the net ranking because at 18 today, even though they've dropped 5 spots since Saturday, still the highest net ranking in program history or before this year. Now it was 13, but if I'd have told you at the end of January that Ole Miss would be 4-2 in the league, have 15 wins, 5 quad ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they're where they need to be, but it's just that was probably the toughest loss of the year for Ole Miss. I think last night was by far the toughest one that they've suffered. State was tough because they rallied and came all the way back from an 8-point halftime deficit. And Matt Morrell's heroics in that last second 3 get washed away because of the overtime theatrics, if you will. But
Yeah.
here in this game, Matthew Morrell was good enough, and Ole Miss was good enough, and that's what you heard Chris Beard say over and over again. I mean, mathematically, the game was essentially over, and Ole Miss couldn't get a few final plays for 37 and a half minutes of a 40-minute game. Ole Miss did what was necessary to win, and he thought they should have won. But that's not how it works, and you lose by one. But it is notable. I mentioned Matthew Morrell. Last night, he surpassed Zach Graham in career games played for Ole Miss, for an Ole Miss basketball player. He made his 136th appearance as an Ole Miss Rebel. Matt Morrell is who I'm really rooting for more than anybody because he's seen it. He's been through it over his career. And last night should have been a celebration of him and another SEC win, but Ole Miss couldn't get it done. So looking ahead now with this Ole Miss basketball team and what we like about them, what we know about them, what we think they are as far as a contender, has anything changed for you now that they've suffered back-to-back losses? Because, again, the defense has still been there. Their offense, there's some things that, you'd like to see a little bit more of, a little bit better, out-rebounded 2 times in a row. But this is a team that's going to be in the NCAA tournament if it continues to play this brand of basketball, because this brand of basketball will always have you contending. And, yes, you had some shit luck last night or bad luck last night and then on Saturday against Mississippi State, but you're right there. So has anything changed for you?
Nothing has changed, but there are some concerning trends. I'll say, again, like you said, defensively, 10th in adjusted efficiency per Ken Palm. That's good enough to get you to the second weekend in the tournament, without a doubt. 8th in turnover percentage defensively, and 3rd offensively in turnover percentage. So, like you said, all season, great at not turning it over, great at turning people over. You saw it in the Alabama game. I mean, Nate Oates was pulling his hair out because Ole Miss was just all over defensively. I mean, in every passing lane. 5th in steal percentage because of that. 12th in block percentage, like I said earlier. So they're in the top tier in all of these defensive metrics. But the concerning trend for me, Ben, is you mentioned Matthew Morrell, not his regular self. I think he's still bothered by the injury. Mm-hmm. He hit that 3 in the very beginning of the game, and then for the I can pull it up. I don't think he scored again. I mean, he was very uncharacteristically, in my opinion. He wasn't very aggressive. We normally see Matthew Morrell attacking the rim, trying to get to the cup. I think he needs to do more of that. I think and not force it, but just dribble drive, just try to get to the rim, try to get there and distribute, because it's going to open up, because people have to honor you coming to the rack.
And one thing that Chris Beard has talked about multiple times last night, he wasn't going to criticize officiating. That's not who Chris Beard is. But only a couple of free throw attempts for Ole Miss on their home floor. It was a physical game. I appreciated the refs letting these two physical teams play through it, but there was a significant disparity. You don't blame officiating. That's a loser's mentality. That's not what we're doing here. But Matthew, it speaks to what the point you're making. Matthew Morrell's game, he can make threes. I mean, you saw it against Mississippi State. He's got next level 3-point shooting ability, but he's more of a 3-and-D than he is anything else. They have had their most success with Matt Morrell playing him up at the 3 and letting him be their best defender. But the attacking component, that's where you wonder, man, is he still banged up?
Yeah, and again, like I said, 50 combined points from kind of your big 4. Also, if I had told you that Wade Taylor only had 4 points, you would have thought that Ole Miss won by double digits, because, I mean, he lit up Ole Miss in College Station last year for a career high. But you got to get more from Matthew Morrell. You got to get more from Dre Davis.
Period.
I mean, when Ole Miss got him out of the portal, I talked to a couple agents and some scouts that told me flat out he's going to be Ole Miss's best player next year.
And he started that way.
Yeah, I mean, Nick used the term, like, the ball just sticks to his hand. Like he just can't find a shot. He kind of gets into trouble and then turns it over or does some kind of fadeaway, and it's really not his game. I'd like to see Eduardo Klafke play more. Only played 5 minutes last night. I know he's like a 6-man type, come off the bench, play defense. The guy can shoot it. I mean, let him play a little bit more. Get him out there. Try to get him in rhythm. Try to run some sets. Get him some looks. I know he's coming off the concussion, but I think Mikal Brown-Jones needs to be more effective. he had a couple.
His is purely just working him back. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what that is.
But I'm talking like down the road, not just last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a couple big. He drew a big charge at one point, which that doesn't happen hardly at all anymore in college basketball. It's not like, oh no, everything is falling apart. It's fine. It was just one of those games where, and I know a lot of people are really groveling because you had over 10,000 people at the game.
That's what it is.
Students were. I mean, I had people
amazing, dude.
I had people text me that like students were just in regular seats and the security were trying to like move them to like all in one little area.
To which I say, Zach, good. That like I want the students to kind of like, force their way because
Dude,
man, that was the best Ole Miss basketball crowd I have ever seen. And it was a good game, but like the fact that on a Wednesday at 8 p.m., 2 ranked teams, I mean, the stadium Coliseum should have been packed. Basketball schools packed for that. But my point is like historically, these have been hard games, regardless of who Ole Miss was playing in the midweek, late at night to fill out the stadium. They had the second largest crowd in Pavilion history, the largest student section crowd in the history of Ole Miss basketball. They showed up and they deserve all kinds of credit. And Chris Beard gave them credit as well after the game. Here's what Chris Beard said, not only about the crowd, but about the game in general in his post-game press conference.
Yeah, obviously a tough one tonight. We got a hurt locker room right now. Thought we did everything we needed to do to win the game. The game's kind of mathematically over if we can just inbound the ball and make 1 or 2 passes and absorb their foul. Hit a decent percentage of free throws. So obviously too many unforced turnovers in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. So just disappointing. I think we played well enough to win the game tonight. A lot of really good things in the game. You think about our program as about 10 months ago or so, season 1, we played this same Texas A&M team here on our home floor, and we just weren't competitive in the game. So here we are, year 2, and again, I thought we were more than competitive in the game. I thought we deserved to win tonight if we can finish the game off, and we didn't. So give Texas A&M credit. They did the things they had to do. If you coach long enough or play long enough, you're a part of these games on the good side or the bad side. So unfortunately for us tonight, lots of lessons to be learned. Don't want to take away, though, from the first 36 and a half minutes of the game. We put ourselves in a position to beat what I think is one of the best teams in college basketball. We just didn't finish the game like you have to finish the game. Lastly, I just really appreciate the crowd and the attendance. Just apologize to everybody that came to the game. I know you come to the game wanting to win, and we were so close to getting that done for everybody tonight. But it doesn't take away the fact that we want to say thank you, and we really appreciate the crowd. It's a special night in college basketball, attendance and environment-wise. Trust me, nobody feels worse than we do. We feel like we let a lot of people down tonight. It's a long season, and we'll get back to work. And give A&M credit for doing what they had to do in the last couple minutes to give themselves a chance to win the game.
Open the floor for questions.
Coach, obviously a tough league and a tough loss, but how does this kind of prepare you for March? Everything is preparing you for March. You mentioned it's a long season, but how does a loss like that get you ready for SEC tournament, also the NCAA tournament as well?
Those things are hard to think about right now, obviously, but it's a long season. There's 18 SEC games. I guess tonight was number 6. So there's lots of lessons each game, whether you win or lose. And so, back to work tomorrow. We're a fighter program, fighter mentality. We're not going to play the victim card. We had nobody to blame but ourselves for this. Again, we had the game, almost mathematically won. We've just got to be able to inbound the ball, break a press, accept the foul, and make some free throws. And we just weren't able to do that tonight. So lots of lessons in this game. Ultimately, you hope as the coach, I care for these guys. I'd do anything I could to do personally to help them win. But you just hope that a painful night like tonight, maybe there's some silver lining in the end. It's a long season. If we can learn from this, we can become a better team, finishing off a game when we have a lead, big enough where we should win the game.
Chris, a lot of unforced errors in that last 4-minute stretch. How do you approach a veteran-heavy team that kind of made mental mistakes late?
Just got to stay the course. I've always been a player that trusts a coach that trusts players. And so a lot of those things, we had the right guy with the ball, and we just didn't make the play tonight. So, again, nobody hurts more than us. The game is basically mathematically over if we just make some routine plays. Give Texas A&M credit. They were the reason that we couldn't make some of those routine plays.
You guys shot four free throws tonight. Do you feel like you guys were aggressive in that regard?
Say it again.
You guys shot there were just 4 free throws tonight. Did you like the aggression in that regard?
I'm not going to comment on that tonight. I would just say that it's 2 physical teams playing. It was really hard to understand and comprehend from where I was sitting that, we play 16, 17 minutes of SEC basketball, and there's only 1 foul on the opponent. A lot of what they do is ISO ball. One guy has the ball. Everybody's spaced out. So there's not a lot of nights where you see the foul on the ball, but there's a lot of action and a lot of physicality going on off the ball. So we'll have to study the tape and see. These are the best officials in college basketball, period. So it's never about that. But it was a puzzling stat. Opponent can come in here and play physical and tough. That's their identity. That's who they are. Their coach will tell you that more than I can. So no fouls off the ball, 17 minutes of an SEC game. That was puzzling, to say the least.
You used the word hurt locker room. I guess in the schedule where you're playing the third of 3 ranked opponents in a row next game, how long can you allow that hurt to last?
I mean, you can't. It's SEC basketball. You've been covering me and us forever. Stay the course. We're not going to let the hurt last.
You guys had extended the lead out a little bit late in the second half, got it to 8, maybe a little more than that. Didn't get a field goal the last 3, 50-something. Was there like a common thread to some of those offensive possessions that were fruitless at the end?
Thought we got some decent shots during that stretch, but I also thought we had way too many late shot clock situations. We certainly weren't even talking about time at that time. We were actually talking about quite the opposite, stay aggressive. Their soft press kind of nags at you, so you're going to be playing with a 20-second shot clock, not 30. But I agree with you. I thought during that stretch we just had too many possessions. Like, you think about our team, we were in late shot clock more than we have been all season. Give the opponent some credit. The press kills some shot clock. But I think from our point of view, there's a lot to learn from this. We can be much more aggressive, call it mid-clock. I did think that was a pivotal part of the game. When you get up 7 or 8, the way I was always taught to think is, can we get this thing to 10? And then if you get it to 10, it puts a little bit more pressure on their offense. They have to play at a different speed. But we were never able to break that threshold. And give Texas A&M credit.
Coach, your defense forced 20 turnovers tonight for Texas A&M. On a kind of positive note, what are you seeing from your guys on the defensive side that has allowed you to continue for some of the top teams in the country offensively to a lot of turnovers?
That's one of the parts of our defensive identity. I do believe that we're one of the best defensive teams in college basketball as we sit here today. We have to continue to build this. I thought we did do a good job forcing turnovers. We had some timely bad fortune or bad plays, whichever way you look at it. We could have turned those turnovers into a few more baskets, especially in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. But no, I think, again, a lot of good things. If college basketball was a 37-minute game, then we're sitting here celebrating one of our best performances. So I can't say it any clearer. I thought our guys deserved to win tonight. We played well. We executed a scouting report for about, 37 and a half, 38 minutes. There's just some routine plays you have to make when the game is basically mathematically over. We had veteran players on the floor. We just didn't get it done.
At the half, the rebounding disparity wasn't that bad, but then it kind of manifested itself in the second half. It's back-to-back games where you've been out-rebounded by more than double figures, but what do you kind of attribute that to, especially in a game like this that was a rock fight?
Yeah, I attribute that to Texas A&M, the #1 offensive rebounding team in college basketball. I thought our guys grew a little bit tonight in the rebounding battle. We fought, we compete. Y'all saw it. We had some special performances. But when we needed the rebound the most in some big moments, Texas A&M showed their identity. There they are. The first basket of the game was an offensive rebound for them. And then I thought we did a pretty good job the rest of the first half. And then certainly late in the game, there was just some timely rebounds that we had to have. A lot of those are rotation. We didn't do a great job defending dribble penetration tonight. So in a lot of those blow-bys up top, we're in rotations. More difficult to get the rebound when you're in rotations than if we can just guard the ball. So the rebounding stat is always about several things. If you can't guard the ball, you're in rotations, difficult to get a rebound.
That was Chris Beard, Ole Miss men's basketball coach in his second year following Ole Miss's loss to Texas A&M on Wednesday night. Hats off to the crowd. They deserve all the credit in the world. Everything is still in front of Ole Miss. Now that game at Missouri becomes that much more important because you got to get off the schneid. You don't want to turn 2 into 3 losses in a row, especially with the way Ole Miss has been playing. 2 tough luck losses. They could have won those games, but instead they're 15-4, 4-2 in the SEC after being one of only 3 teams in the SEC to start the SEC schedule 4-0, including top-ranked Auburn. But Ole Miss has now fallen twice, so got to get off the mat. Basketball, like Zach said, is so much different than football because every opportunity, even losses, you get rewarded for good losses in college basketball.
Yeah.
So as long as Ole Miss wins, its fair share and continues to play this brand of basketball, it's going to be in the tournament. The question is like, man, when and where do you get off the schneid? Because last night was tough. Let's hope it's at Missouri on Saturday.
Right. And another thing to remember how good the SEC is this year.
Yep.
You're going to have a lot of quad 1 opportunities. So
every game's a quad 1 for the most part. I think that every single member of the 16-team SEC, except for one maybe, is in the top 100 in the net.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it might be every remaining game is quad 1. So
yeah, nuts.
Yeah,
they're going to get into the tournament if you only win like 19 games.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean like
maybe.
It's crazy. I was actually watching some of the old 17-18 Texas Tech, 18-19 Texas Tech games yesterday. Lot of similarities in style of play, obviously, because Chris Beard was the coach and Mark Adams was the defensive coordinator.
And Mark is now back on staff with Chris Beard here at Ole Miss. This is his first year.
Yeah, so I mean, his thumbprint is all over this team with how they play with the no middle defense. But yeah, the metrics are all very, very, very similar from that first run to the tournament to an Elite Eight that Chris Beard had before he got to that national title game against Virginia. So I think this brand of basketball, I made the joke about Iowa football, and that wasn't like that wasn't a slant. Like Iowa wins football games because of how they play. I think Ole Miss has an identity, knows its brand. Last night was just tough luck. I mean, you kind of crumble down the stretch, shoot yourself in the foot. But like we've been saying, it's not like the end of the season. This isn't going to be one where the committee's like, well, that 1-point home loss to A&M, we can't put Ole Miss in. Like, it's fine. It's mostly just the optics of it, right? With the huge crowd, you dominated the game. Like, I'm pretty sure A&M did not lead at all.
Until they went up 63-62.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a tweet from Peter Burns. I could find it really quick. Georgia, Ole Miss, and South Carolina led for 119 minutes and 14 seconds of 120 minutes of game combined last night.
And all
lost.
All lost.
So, as our boy John Rothstein will say, it's not anarchy, it's college basketball.
Them's the breaks. Welcome to college basketball.
Yeah. So, the league is good. The league's good because there are a lot of good coaches. I mean, I tell people all the time, everybody's like, is the SEC a basketball conference now? Like, it kind of is. Because top to bottom, you've got elite to really good coaches everywhere. So you got to bring it every night. Missouri's going to be that's going to be tough. I mean, that place will be rocking. When Missouri gives a shit about basketball, it can be a pretty rowdy environment. They're playing well now. They're ranked. So it's, again, another quad one opportunity. So go there, get you a gritty, hard fought road win like you did at Alabama. And then you get back to homeostasis, and then you got huge opportunities next week.
That's the thing about Ole Miss basketball this year. They're going to be in every game they play. But, man, if you're hoping for a night off, like, oh, they got them an easy win, an easy 20-pointer, there is nothing left like that in the SEC. It is going to be an absolute fight for this team to get in. But it was always going to be the case. And when every game is essentially a coin flip and all the coaches are good like Zach said, then, that's, games like Wednesday are going to happen. Again, not turning 2 into 3 or 3 and 4. That's the biggest thing. Get off the schneid. Now, Ole Miss football.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require RiverLand Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, RiverLand Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what RiverLand Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
This is Cali. With C-Spire's blazing fast nationwide 5G network, she's got her fans in the palm of her hands. Live streaming her Mississippi blues from her phone wherever she is. To out there wherever they are. Right now, get the latest 5G phone on us. Only at C-Spire. Customer inspired.
Mid-year enrollees have arrived on campus for Ole Miss football. I saw a picture today of Kewan Lacey, one of the many transfers Ole Miss has added, a running back on campus right now. I'm going to go through the list of the mid-year enrollees, and I want you to tell me the one you think or you're most bullish on about helping Ole Miss immediately. Hayden Bradley, tight end. Wide receiver Dylan Alfred. Wide receiver Winston Watkins, the 4-star. Wide receiver Samari Reed. Offensive lineman Devin Harper and Connor Howes. Defensive lineman Andrew Maddox, the younger brother of AJ, who is now the backup quarterback competing with the Louisville transfer behind Austin Simmons. Edge Corey Adams. Edge Talib Graham. Linebacker, kind of hybrid safety Jarcoby Hopson. And cornerback Mason Dunn, defensive back MJ Preston. Of those early enrollees, not the transfers, the early enrollees from high school, you don't see a lot of this under Lane Kiffin. Which ones do you think could impact Ole Miss early?
Yeah, I was while you're reading them out, I was throwing my fingers up for the ones that I was notating. I think Mason Dunn for sure. Elite length, really good man coverage type guy, could eventually turn into Trey Amos. I don't, if he does that as a true freshman, then he's going to be going day one in the NFL draft. But you can't teach 6'4". I think that's going to be huge for him and getting on the field. I think they're going to try to work him in early. Pete Golding went toe to toe with Kalen DeBoer and everybody over there in Tuscaloosa and kept him committed and signed him. I think the two offensive linemen that you mentioned, Devin Harper, Connor Howes, I think those two are going to be in the mix. Maybe not too deep, but I think they're going to be pushing guys because
I'll believe that when I see it, Zachary.
Yeah, I've heard some people say that they look different than most incoming freshman linemen. There's a reason that LSU wanted Devin Harper so bad, and it's not. You can probably count on one hand how many times Ole Miss or anyone else goes into Louisiana and gets a blue chip guy that LSU
And I will say, like, having that caliber, if you have a guy like Devin Harper who starts as an offensive lineman, as a true freshman, Notre Dame had it with a true freshman offensive lineman. If you land one of those, what it does to fill out the rest of your offensive line and your skill set, it goes without saying, obviously, but it's invaluable. I mean, if you can get one of those type of emergence, and that's what we're talking about here, who you're going to get that kind of emergence from, because you haven't seen that, particularly with Lane Kiffin coach teams in the previous 5 years. Freshmen coming in and making that kind of impact. You think Devin Harper, though, because we said the same kind of things about Bryson Sanders, right? And we're still waiting to see if Bryson takes that step, becomes a starter this year at either center or guard. You think Devin Harper has instant impact ability?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think him and Connor Howes will push the older guys. Now, maybe they end up getting some work in the 2 deep. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just saying I think that they have the potential. I'm at the point now where I think Ole Miss, talking about NIL and recruiting, and the big conversation is about offensive line and getting offensive linemen through the portal. I did a whole piece on it with the teams that are running the football effectively and have really good offensive line units are mostly built through high school. I think you're to the point now where Ole Miss needs to start investing in offensive linemen. I think you need to go and you need to pay, and sometimes you might need to overpay for an offensive tackle, and you need to play them. And you need to play them early. And look at what you did. And look, I know that Laramie Tunsil is a damn unicorn, but you get your 5-star guy.
Don't do it. Don't do it, though.
But you get your 5-star guy and you play him. You take your lumps and you let him get the experience and get him some work. I mean, they did the same thing with Greg Little, another 5-star. You play him. They're a 5-star for a reason. If they're not worthy, you'll find out real quick. So I think you need to start investing in offensive linemen because I think that's how you build a unit. Talking about other guys that I think are instant impact. I think Winston Watkins has a chance to be special.
Again, I'll believe it when I see it, Zachary, with a wide receiver.
He was at damn near every all-star game and showed out at every single one of them. He's explosive. I think he's incredibly versatile. You look at what Ole Miss has done with Caden Lee, a young guy that played a lot. That's the thing, man. I think it's hard for certain positions to come in young and perform because of what's asked of you to do in a Lane Kiffin offense and what you need to know, what you need to learn. Caden Lee's proof. Like, he clearly learned the playbook and earned the trust. So he got some reps and he earned his spot. I think that's what you need to do. And same with running back, right? Like, you got to be able to pass. You got to be able to be good in pass pro. If you can't protect the quarterback, you're not going to play. So I think that Watkins has a chance just because of his versatility and what he can do. They've been, the whole sales pitch to him was come in and be Elijah Moore. Now that's, again, high praise, but
it's like when every undersized wide receiver, / running back after Dexter left, Corvick Nate, whenever they'd sign one, you go, oh, well, maybe that's the next Dexter. They told him that he wants to be the next Dexter. It's just,
this is what the coaches were telling Winston Watkins, though.
Yes,
so they want to use him in different ways. He's not just a slot guy that they
did that in the All-Star game he played in too. When he was in the Navy All-America Bowl, he wasn't just catching passes; he was running the ball too.
Yeah, and then he had 2 touchdowns in the Polynesian Bowl. So I like his chances of getting out there and trying to get some reps because, again, I think they're gonna, they get the 2 guys, Traylon Ray and Deuce Alexander in the slot to go with Caden Lee, but Jordan Watkins, that's a huge hole that's being left in that offense. So they're going to try to find playmakers. I'm trying to think of the other ones that you mentioned from the high school.
Lee becomes, for me, the next Jordan Watkins.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. Because, yes, they have their slot, but Traylon Lee, Deuce Alexander, there are guys that could essentially be that number 3 that could emerge as a number 2, similar to what Caden did last year. Caleb Odom steps in as far as body type for Trey Harris. DeJon Stribling's very similar in that way too. Either one of them could be the next Juice as far as being the opposite outside wide receiver. But you're going to see Caden as that Jordan Watkins guy. I love the Winston Watkins pick, but I am so hesitant because of the track record. Berry and Brown, Aiden Williams is now a Mississippi State Bulldog. Narelle White is in the portal. 4-star, highly ranked wide receivers. 4 to 5-star. I mean, it's just not been something you've seen under Lane Kiffin. Maybe Caleb Cunningham breaks it. Maybe Winston Watkins breaks it. But for me, if I'm looking for instant impact in early enrollees, I'm looking on the defensive side because I think Jarcoby Hopson could start immediately. I remember when I went and covered Cam Franklin in his recruitment and went to Lake Cormorant and talked to that staff and all of those people. And Cam was a prospect they all love and have high praise for, but they said, but also you need to meet this guy, Jarcoby Hopson. This kid, he's the next thing, a totally different kind of player, gotten a little bit bigger, was a safety, now listed as a linebacker, but you're talking about needing safeties, that hybrid safety in 4-2-5, the star position that they talk about. I think he could step in now that he's on campus. I think he could step in and be that guy in year one, be that star kind of player. To me, it reminds me a lot of Tony Connor when he was coming in. I don't want to put all that on him, but considering the lack of success with freshman offensive players under Lane Kiffin outside of Quinshawn, I would lean more toward the defensive side and a player that has drawn those kind of comps and I've been hearing about for years on years now. And one thing, too, he suffered a tragedy in his life with his dad. It's terrible. I wanted to acknowledge it and say, best of luck to him and an Ole Miss family. Wrap your arms around him because he's gone through a lot. But as far as the football side of it, I think he could start immediately.
Yeah, I think he is a hell of a candidate, too, because of the versatility, the athleticism. Not a lot of guys his size move as well as he does. I mean, he did everything at Lake Carmel. He played some quarterback, played some running back, played some wide receiver, and then was a safety at times. And then his senior year was mostly a linebacker. I like he's a little bit bigger than Tony Connor was when he was in high school. Maybe a little bit more of, kind of a hybrid Suntarian Perkins, Tony Connor, where he's really long.
That's like a transformer.
Yeah, he's a little bit thicker. Like Tony was pretty thin, but was just cerebral as hell. Like between the ears, he was really, really good. He picked up the defense really quickly. I remember like Dave Womack was saying like he's like one of the smartest guys he was ever around in terms of just knowing where to be. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Hopson is out there. I mean, he's definitely going to be at least a special teams guy because I mean, he's a first off the bus type. Like, I mean, you put a uniform on him, he looks like, he's standing in the, sports section at Dick's. So, good body type. I think that he projects well to make an impact, very quickly, if not next season. He'll be a mainstay on the defense and be a multi-year starter, in my opinion. I wouldn't be shocked if Hopson is out there. Mason Dunn, like I said, just because of the length and the ball skills. I mean, again, he's 6'4". Talking to his coach at Tupelo, he was like, man, it was very quickly that we realized how good he was and how we just had to keep him on the field. And we had to find ways to keep him out there and not let him come off because he just made plays. And, you can't teach that. You can't teach 6'4". So, it's hard to be a true freshman in college football in the Power Four and make an impact. But, those are some good candidates for next season.
All right, so before we wrap it up and leave here on this edition of Talk of Champions, brought to you as always by RiverLand Roofing, the little house up top, riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297 for all your roofing needs. And you see on the banner below, we work, me and Zach, we talk and write about your Ole Miss Rebels all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. Sign up today. Get your first week for $1. This is all we do is talk about Ole Miss, be it basketball, football, baseball, recruiting. It's all there all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. Sign up for $1. What are you most paying attention to the rest of the week in Ole Miss sports?
I'll keep an eye out for this weekend. Players coming in. We talked about it on the message board. There'll be some 4-stars in town this weekend for 2026 as the staff has been out and about. I mean, if you subscribe, if you read the site, you will see that myself and Billy have been covering it like crazy. The coaches are doing in-home visits. They're going out. They're seeing players, extending offers. And it's not like anything imminent, but I will be keeping an eye on Ryder Lyons. His teammate Jamison Powell committed to Ole Miss on Wednesday. Was originally going to wait until March just because of like a birthday and was going to do that whole thing. But just after having an in-home with George McDonald, he went ahead and decided he wanted to grab that spot in the 26 class. And he's now the second commit. He's teammates with Ryder Lyons, the 5-star quarterback at Folsom. Right now it's Ole Miss, it's Oregon, it's BYU, and it's Southern Cal. His older brother plays at Southern Cal. You've got the Lincoln Riley thing. He's really good with quarterbacks. but it's definitely big to get Jamison Powell. You know, the package deal thing hardly ever works out.
Never.
But this wasn't like we're going to take Jamison just to try to get Ryder. Like Jamison Powell was a good prospect in his own right. 1,100 yards as a junior, had over 1,000 as a sophomore. Legit dude who I think can grow into a really productive wideout in Lane Kiffin's system. Explosive, and somebody that I think he told Billy, hey, best friends with Ryder. I would love for him to play with me. But Ryder's already been looking at Ole Miss. This wasn't like Jamison went there, like I'll start looking at Ole Miss. Like, no, I mean, he's been to Oxford. The Folsom staff came to Oxford with him. They are big fans of Lane Kiffin. They're big fans of Oxford, and they think that Ryder and Jamison can really thrive in this, environment, this offense. And I think that that's something to keep an eye on. So I reported last week with Ryder, it's a unique situation. He will sign early, and then he will go on his mission. He is LDS, so he will do a Mormon mission, and then we'll be ready for the 2027 season. So another thing to consider with timelines and how things work out with, quarterbacks and where that quarterback room is for Ole Miss. But make no mistake, I mean, he's probably, number one with a bullet for Ole Miss at the quarterback position. So that's something to, put a pin in and keep an eye on him. So he's going to start taking visits. I don't know if they'll be of the official variety, but I do think, like most quarterbacks do, Ben, they do like to go ahead and claim a spot and get in a class so they can start building around them. So it certainly doesn't hurt that Ole Miss got his number one target in the boat on Wednesday.
That's a big one, and something certainly to keep an eye on. Obviously, Ole Miss looking to get off basketball. It is looking to get off the mat Saturday at number 22, Missouri. Back-to-back losses in the SEC following their first ever top 5 road win in program history at Alabama. So got to get that one. Baseball has officially started practices. It's happening. Like, baseball season is on the way. They open in Arlington in the Shriners tournament February, I want to say 13th. Don't hold me to it, but mid-February. That's happening right now. So only a couple of weeks now before Ole Miss baseball will try to, for the first time since winning a title in the summer of 2022, have a winning season with a lot of new, but certainly a lot to be hopeful for, especially with Hunter Elliott being back and a veteran roster, a healthy Judd Udemark, who is doing a podcast for us here on the Talk of Champions podcast network called Judd U. Be on the lookout for that as well. That's what I'm most paying attention to from the team side. From a recruiting side, the portal, people need to understand, is closed, but outside of Ohio State entrance or this is pretty much closed for everybody at this point, but you're still going to see activity. And with the no rules and no guardrails in college football these days, you're seeing kids get in, not even worrying about the portal. So who knows? But I really think that the uptick in the next portal wave will be for Ole Miss more on the defensive side at cornerback specifically. That's where they really struggle to get more than what they got. I mean, Jalen Braxton's a great piece, and they love him. They got the piece from Washington State, the corner, but they wanted so much more. So I think that's what to be looking for in the second wave. But as far as for the rest of the week, Zach's right on it. The recruiting angle is Ryder Lions and just getting Jamison Powell in the boat. That's a big deal. But basketball got to get off the schneid, and then baseball, man, it's here, man. It's rolling around. Some baseball reports coming soon. Check us out at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate of On3. Zachary is at Zach_Berry on X. I'm at Spirit Ben. If you sign up for the Ole Miss Spirit today, you can get your first week for as low as $1 and just come hang out with us and talk about the Ole Miss Rebels. Ask us your recruiting questions. Ask us your team stuff. Ask us the questions you want to ask the coaches yourself. Let us be that voice for you in the press conference rooms. We've shown we have no problem being that. But Zachary, thank you, my man. I appreciate it. What you got going this weekend? Anything fun?
I mean, just watch some Ole Miss basketball, watch some college basketball.
There you go.
Just a lot of relaxing.
Do you miss football yet? Because I already do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
and when the Cowboys hire Brian Schottenheimer, I think I'm just going to check out completely.
I don't really care about the playoffs. Like,
Of course you don't.
Me and
You're a
the
college football guy.
Me and the dads in the neighborhood, we'll go to the tavern across the street and watch, just as a way to get together and hang. But I will say I am pulling for the Commanders after I saw that hype video. That was pretty damn good. So I like Jane Daniels. That's fun. I mean, pretty awesome. And I think I kind of speak for everybody that's not in the greater Kansas City area that people want to see someone other than the Chiefs win. So yeah, I'll be watching a lot of college basketball this weekend. Keep my finger on the pulse of recruiting. Next weekend will be a big one. That'll be a junior day. So we'll have coverage on recruiting, of course, this weekend. But next weekend, Billy and I will be busy. It'll be hopefully a big event for Ole Miss, as all of these college football staffs are trying to drum up all of this attention for junior days. So 2026 is here, man. Turn the page. So the portal,
crazy, man.
Yeah.
2026. I will say this too. Ole Miss is guaranteed to get at least one representative in the Super Bowl this year. Didn't have one last year.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss has had at least one former player in 23 out of 59 Super Bowls. And this year it's going to be either one of AJ Brown, or I think is guaranteed. Well, no, it's not guaranteed. If the Chiefs and Commanders get in there, it's not. But AJ Brown's still alive. Dawson Knox is still alive. One of those two could get into the Super Bowl. For Dawson, it would be his first appearance. For AJ Brown, it'd be his second. And I think only 6 other Rebels in history have gotten to 2 Super Bowls. So AJ Brown, I'd hope you don't get there, because it's the Eagles, and I've always hated the Eagles. But also they're playing the Commanders, so I'm going to lose there, and I want to see the Bills beat the Chiefs. So no, Ole Miss isn't guaranteed to have a one rep in the Super Bowl, but still 2 Rebels alive to make it into the Super Bowl. So keep an eye out for that for AJ, the all-time Ole Miss great wide receiver, and Dawson Knox, who inexplicably didn't score a touchdown in his Ole Miss career because Phil Longo. Thank you, buddy.
All right. See you later.